Hi, have you ever been a part of a wedding party? Maybe you were one of the groomsmen or a bridesmaid. Well, maybe the groom or the bride, perhaps. But each of those roles have an important part to play in the wedding. Stay tuned. Hi, and welcome to Follow Me, the online teaching ministry here at Waynfleet BIC Church in Waynfleet, Ontario. I'm Pat Hand, and I'm the senior pastor or lead pastor here at the church, and we invite you to come and go with us as we explore the teachings of Jesus. Maybe you're new to faith. Maybe this is something that you're kind of sticking your big toe in to see where it strikes you. Is this something that you're looking for answers about? And maybe you find yourself drawn to the teachings of Jesus, but maybe don't know a whole lot about him. Well, you've come to the right place. I'm glad that you're here. Follow Me is all about that. Or maybe you've been a part of faith before, but had walked away from it. And maybe you kind of find yourself being drawn back to the teachings of Jesus, and we're glad that you're here as well. So we find ourselves in a series called The Parables. The parables, these are stories that Jesus told to illustrate the truth that he was teaching. A parable, it literally means alongside, and so a parable is a story that Jesus brings alongside the teaching in order to help people understand what he was trying to say. And so we're in a story today about a wedding. And I'm going to read to you the story that Jesus told to illustrate the fact that it's important to be prepared, that there is a time coming when he will return again. And so he's teaching about this. This teaching is found in the Gospels in the first book of the New Testament, Matthew, chapter 25. And here's what Jesus said. The kingdom of heaven will be like 10 bridesmaids who took their lamps and went to meet the bridegroom. 5 of them were foolish, and 5 were wise. The 5 who were foolish didn't take enough olive oil for their lamps, but the other 5 were wise enough to take along extra oil. When the bridegroom was delayed, they all became drowsy and fell asleep. At midnight, they were roused by the shout, "Look, the bridegroom is coming. Come out and meet him." All the bridesmaids got up and they prepared their lamps. And then the 5 foolish ones asked others, "Please give us some of your oil because our lamps are going out." But the others replied, "We don't have enough for all of us. Go to a shop and buy some for yourselves." But while they were gone to buy oil, the bridegroom came. Then those who were ready went in with him to the marriage feast, and the door was locked. And later, when the other 5 bridesmaids returned, they stood outside calling, "Lord, Lord, open the door for us." But he called back, "Believe me, I don't know you." So Jesus tells that story, and then he finishes it with this important statement. So you too must keep watch, for you do not know the day or hour of my return. 10 bridesmaids are in our story. 5 were called wise bridesmaids. 5 bridesmaids were called foolish by Jesus because, though warned, they were not ready when the groom showed up with his bride. And let me give you a little context so you can understand a wedding back in the Old Testament days and in Jesus' days. Back in the Bible times, weddings were a significant social and family event just like they are today. But they did weddings differently than we do them today. Local Jewish custom, it went something like this. They had no engraved invitation with the time. They knew the day that had been announced, but they didn't know the time. And so the day was set, and the general arrival was based when the groom and friends and the bride and her friends were ready to leave the bride's home to go to the groom's home for the marriage and for the feast. And that depended on how long it took for the groom to give gifts to the bride's family. The groom and the bride's father, they both agreed on the beauty and the worth of the bride. And it was really a happy time with no time constraints. So the bridesmaids had a very important job. They were to walk with the groom and the bride and the bridal party, and they would stand on each side of the road and walk just a wee bit ahead of them, and they would walk through the streets celebrating and singing and dancing, but lighting the path so the wedding party wouldn't stumble, or they would know where they're going. They'd be able to see ahead, kind of like having flashlights when you're going camping. And so the bridesmaids got all decked out in these beautiful garments that were exquisite. And they carried these ornate, beautiful, large oil lamps. And then they waited and they watched for the wedding party to come. You know, somebody would cry, "Oh, here they are, here at the bridegroom." Oh, false alarm. And then everybody would sit down again. And a little bit later, somebody would say, "Oh, here they come, I hear them." Oh, that's just some people passing by. And so it was kind of like that. They just didn't know when the bridegroom was coming. They knew it was soon. They knew it was imminent. They knew it was going to happen. They just didn't know when. So it was important to be prepared, to be ready to go. So at a moment's notice, when the groom came, they would have their lamps ready to go with enough oil, and they would play this integral part in getting the bridal party to the marriage feast. So that's the story as it unfolds. And yet, there were 5 of them who waited, prepared, ready, on purpose, knew their duty, excited for their part in the wedding party. They were watchful. But then there's the 5 foolish who didn't have enough oil, nor did they plan to go get that and remedy that situation while they were waiting for the groom. They just waited and put it off. They weren't that concerned about it. But when the groom and bride finally came and the dancing and the celebration to begin, they missed out on it. They had to go get oil. And according to Jewish tradition, once the wedding party was at the groom's place for the wedding, for the feast, then they closed the gate and nobody else could come in, no exceptions, period. And that was obviously, it's late at night, there could be robbers, and so that was the rule. Everybody, the wedding party came in together and they closed the doors behind them. And these poor, foolish bridesmaids, they got their oil, they came back, but they weren't let in. They were supposed to be ready, and they knew they should be ready, but they weren't. So let's think about that for a second. Olive oil is pretty heavy. In fact, olive oil, which is what they use to burn the lamps, it's 7.5 pounds for a gallon. So carrying extra olive oil was a little bit laborsome. I'm sure they didn't carry a gallon each, but they probably had a pretty big flask that they had to carry, maybe a strap, along with the lamp. So yeah, there was something to having to be ready and watchful and prepared. And these 5 had chosen not to be prepared. They probably thought, oh, I'll get some oil from these others. They just missed the boat about it. And so the foolish, ill-prepared bridesmaids, they made 2 mistakes. One, they thought there was plenty of time to get prepared with more oil and not miss the bridal party when they were going to come by to pick up the bridesmaids for the wedding party that night. 2, it's obvious that they didn't take the privilege of being a bridesmaid, nor the responsibility that goes with it. They didn't take it very serious. And they didn't stay on guard. They weren't watchful and prepared and ready for the groom to come at any moment. Jesus told this parable as a warning and also to be instructional of how to wait with purpose and meaning when it comes to Christ's promised physical return to earth one day. Let's be sure that we don't make the same mistakes as followers of Jesus as they did as bridesmaids. We're looking for the return of Jesus. Now, for some of you, that may be kind of new, or it may seem hokey, or it may seem fairy tale. But we believe that Jesus taught this in his own words. He said, be watchful. No man knows the day or the hour that I'm returning. So Jesus took it serious. He said and taught that he was coming again. And so as followers of Jesus, we know that the return of Jesus is imminent. I don't know if you have been with us long enough, but we did a study that kind of talks about this, where we did a whole study about Jesus returning, and that a part of our life is to be in readiness, prepared for Christ to return. And it's going to happen. And so Jesus warns us that we are to be watchful. We are to be paying attention to that. We are to prepare ourselves for that time. To stay awake because of the need to be alert. And he kind of goes on to teach, you don't want to be foolish in his eyes. The foolish word literally means to become one who does not employ a capacity to understand. And that was these 5 foolish bridesmaids. They just didn't understand the seriousness and the importance of their role in this wedding party, and to be prepared and watching and ready for the groom to come so that they could fulfill what they were brought in to do. And so we find ourselves living in a world where it's easy to become dull in our thinking about the kingdom of God, in understanding the opportunities, or may I say the responsibilities as Christ followers, to follow him and to be ready to follow him and to serve him and to give our lives to him. Not prepared is to miss a great blessing. To be prepared, there's this awesome blessing of shining our lights brightly to help people find Jesus. Nor do we want to put off being ready for Christ to return. None of us are perfect, right? But we do find ourselves, maybe coming out of COVID, maybe we kind of find ourselves wanting to kind of put our spiritual life on pause. Man, we've been stuck indoors with this up and down, and the worry and all the things that go with COVID have kind of worn us out. We just want to party. We just want to live. We just want to enjoy. And so for some reason, some people think that building and working on the spiritual part of your life is missing out on the fun. We would say just the opposite. But we find ourselves where there's Christians who they just want to put their spiritual life on pause, their discipleship, their service for the Lord. This idea of serving in a church and finding our place of service and using our gifts for Jesus and for his kingdom, just for a while, people want to just put it on hold. What's the harm in that? But see, here's the thing. We don't want to be foolish bridesmaids. We acknowledge that all those things are important, but we perhaps want to hit the snooze button for a while. I mean, after all, we might be saying, hey, Jesus has been saying for 2,000 years that he's returning, and we hadn't seen him yet, so we probably got plenty of time. We don't have to rush. We don't have to pay attention to some things right now. Yeah, they're important, and at some point we need to do that, but not right now. That would be, Jesus would say, acting like a foolish bridesmaid. Because Jesus made it clear, if you want to know what he thinks about it, he said in verse 13, so you too must keep watch, for you do not know the day or the hour of my return. So watching for Christ to come back, it involves not merely expecting Jesus to return, but it involves expectantly waiting, watching with purpose, watching with an intent to be a part of God's kingdom, to be busy, not in the sense of 8 days a week busy, but more like being alert, expectantly, anticipating, and preparing for Christ to come again. The story that I'm going to tell you happened to me as a kid, and it kind of illustrates this idea of being prepared. So when I was a kid, I must have been about 11 at the time. One day, my dad said, Pat, I want you to mow the yard, have it done before I get home at the end of the day. I said, okay, I will do it. And so I pulled out the mower out of the garage and got the gas can, and friends came over and they said, hey, we're going to go play baseball. Come go with us. No, I can't do that. I need to mow the yard. And somebody said, well, when do you have to have it done by? Well, I have to have it done but before my dad comes back. And so somebody says, well, you know he's gone all day. Come on, let's go play ball for a couple hours. So we go play baseball for a couple hours. Well, by then it's lunchtime, and we go to different friends' homes and we raid the refrigerator, and so we make sandwiches. And then I said, well, guys, I got to go mow the lawn, get it done. And they said, well, hey, man, we're going to go ride bikes, and we got brand new baseball cards. We're going to put them in the back wheel, and, kind of sounds like a motorcycle, and, man, that's bad to the bone, right? So I said, okay. So we went and rode bikes for a couple hours. And then we were hot. We had to go to somebody's house and get some Kool-Aid. And finally, it's late in the afternoon, and I said, guys, I've got to go. I've got to get the yard mowed. My dad is going to return. And so somebody says, well, we're about to play basketball. And so, come on, let's play basketball. No, come on, let's play basketball. So you go play basketball. And so about 5:15, my dad's going to come home around 5:30. I start mowing the yard. And I know I'm in trouble. I know I put things in front of what Dad asked me to do. And I can blame it on anything I want or anyone that I want. But the reality is, on that day, when it counted the most, I wasn't prepared. I had not done what I was supposed to do in the time I had to do it. And my dad came home to a yard that wasn't finished being mowed. It's a great illustration. Did I love Dad? Oh, yeah. But was I looking forward to his coming? Nope. I was hoping that, man, a railroad train across the tracks would tie him up for 10 minutes, or maybe somebody there at the church office needed to talk to him, or maybe he needed to go to the store. I didn't want him to come home. I wasn't ready for him to come home. But he came home. I had not been watching. I had not been preparing. I had not been expectantly doing what I was supposed to do. That's what Jesus is talking about, being ready for his return. And I would say with somebody who's watching this, wherever you might be, maybe it begins with, first of all, maybe giving your life to Christ and inviting him into your life and to forgive you of your sins and to wipe the slate clean and a new life, a new beginning with Christ. Maybe that's what he's calling you to. Or maybe you're here and you've done that. You've given your life to Christ, but you find yourself at a stage in life where if Jesus returned, this is not exactly where you would want to be found. This is not what you'd want to be found doing. Maybe you find yourself, you haven't been watchful and expectant of his return. Can I tell you, this is so important. And as we walk and talk about these things, Jesus thought it was important too. And he was saying, oh man, be part of those 5 bridesmaids who expectantly watched for the groom to come. Don't be the 5 foolish ones who didn't take it serious. And so I would say Jesus wants you to take it serious. And he loves you. And he makes himself available to you. And maybe you'd like to start a conversation about that. You can email me, pat@waynefleetbic.com. And let's begin a conversation. Maybe you have questions. Maybe there's some things that yeah, this makes sense, but oh man, I got burned in a church one time and I don't want to get burned again. Or maybe you might even say, I don't believe any of this. This is the biggest fairy tale hokey I've ever heard. I'm okay with that. Send me an email. Let's begin a conversation. And let's work through this. Let's talk about it. And I will tell you, God loves you and cares about you. And Jesus' teaching here is so important. He wants you to be ready and watching for him to return. Well, thank you for being a part of Follow Me. I look forward to some conversations. I look forward to some emails. And we're here to help you. We're here to walk with you. This is a safe place to ask questions. This is a safe place to disagree. We're glad to have you as a part of Follow Me. And until next time, we'll see you. Take care.